on go. All my ninjas on go.
And that's another thing too, because we've got to understand when we get into these debates about what will work and what doesn't work in a real fight, in the street or in the ring, in the cage, you gotta understand what works is what the practitioner makes work, right? Like, this motherfucker can start at the end of the block and bring all type of spins and flips and pretty bedazzlement and get all the way to the end of the block to his opponent and kick him, bow. If he hit him with it, that shit worked in that situation. So it's not something that we can sit here and say, oh, that'll never work. Like, you don't know what can work in what situations, but what we need to talk about is the percentage, the high. It's like a high percentage shot, you know. A motherfucker can shoot from all the way at the end of the court, as many NBA players have proved. But is that a high percentage shot? Is that something you're going to take 20 out of 25 shots? Are they all going to be from the other end of the court? Probably not, right? So that's what you got to get into when you're talking about technique is what does this work in various situations? Does this work with various body types? Does this work with various skill levels of opponents? A lot of times artists and scientists get caught up in what you can do to somebody else. And rarely we think of what they're going to do to us as well. A fight is an exchange of energy. So it's not just you giving out. It's what they're giving into, what they're putting into the dance as well. And that's got to be taken into account when you're developing your technique to defend yourself. In any situation, in any ring, cage, tournament, dojo, street, bar, prison, wherever that's at, right? You got to take all of that into account. While you sitting here flipping and kicking and jumping and twisting and spinning, did that motherfucker just kick you? You know, while you sitting there trying to grapple with him and grab a leg, did that motherfucker just gouge your eye out? So that's what we're talking about when you're talking about what will work and what doesn't work. Anything can work. So don't tell me what can't work. Let's talk about the percentage. Is it a high percentage shot? Is it something that'll work on a skilled opponent or not? And we can talk about it in that sense. Until then, we got to stop making assumptions about what is and what isn't in martial arts and what is and what isn't in fighting. It's like saying what is and what isn't in relationships. Every relationship is different. Every fight is different. Every skill level is different. Every dog has his day. There'd be days where I wouldn't dare do a certain technique fighting a certain type of person. And there's another day when I got time today. Let's jump and flip all the way from this end of the block to this end of the block because I think I can hit this motherfucker with it. It is what it is. You know, I wouldn't advise that shit in life-threatening situations, but you know, I would advise you, and what I tell my students is to keep it simple. Simple is dope is what I've always said, and not even referring to martial arts. Just simplicity is dope. Some of the dopest things you find is simplicity. So it don't always look as pretty as everybody wanted to look. But did it work? Did it work for you? Well, that even goes with techniques that you do know that are high percentage. Sometimes they don't come off as good as you want it to in the fight situation. Sometimes your foot slips. Sometimes you grab the wrong spot. Anything it can be. But what you got to understand is, can you maneuver from there? Can you adjust? It's about the adjustments. And that's why you got to know your techniques and know as much as you can know so you have as much room as you need to adjust when you need to make the adjustments. It's not about does it work or doesn't work. Anything can work. Sometimes I might adjust to something that'll take that I wouldn't ever do on somebody else. But I'll do it here because it works, right? It's a science. It's an experiment. It's math. A plus B equals C. You know. So no, I don't condone the flashy shit, but I condone simplicity. But at the same time, I don't sit here and judge other people's techniques and say, oh, that'll never work. You know? That's just blasphemy. You never know what'll work against you sometimes. If you don't see it coming, that's where techniques work. Most of the techniques, they work when you don't see it coming or you think it can't happen to you. So you got to be prepared for anything, which is another thing I tell all my students. Be prepared for anything. You don't know what a motherfucker could pull off or what he been practicing 1,000 times. Motherfuckers are laughing at Imanari talking about that'll never work in a fight. Now we got a whole fucking Imanari roll. Come on, y'all. Get out of here. MMA was talking about nobody gets sit on the ground and fight 30 years ago. Now everybody want to be a Gracie. So what works? Nobody said you could kick somebody in the face and knock them out in MMA 10 years ago. Now everybody got to have a head kick. That's part of their arsenal. So what are you saying? What works? What doesn't work? What can you pull off? That's the question.